Hey guys, it's Krystal Lee Moore here, also known as your Home Sweet Home 519 Realtor, Krystal Lee Moore, and this is Realtor Life, a fun and entertaining look at life in the trenches as a real estate professional in Ontario. I'm so happy you're here. Let's get started. Today we're going to talk about real estate conferences. Personal growth and getting better is such a big and integral part of being a realtor and being an entrepreneur. But how much is too much? And how do you make these conferences work for you? Because I will tell you, and this is from personal experience, you can spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars and countless hours going to conferences, and it's fun. It is. There's no two ways about it. It's fun. You're traveling to different places. You're having lunches and dinners and drinks, and it's fantastic. But how do you make sure that it's an actual investment in your business versus just playtime? Because it is a very expensive playtime. You'd be better off to just go on a vacation. And conferences can be exactly what you need them to be. And the key is to find out what works for you. So we're going to talk about a few points. Number one, the connection. Number two, learning and growing, reflecting, and rediscovering. And then we're just going to go into a few other points. So first of all, connection. For me, I love the Buffini and Company conferences. I'm just coming out of Mastermind 2024 in San Diego, and I've been attending Mastermind ever since 2014, and it truly is a game changer for me. There are other Buffini conferences that I love as well. This one just fills you up. So this one really is all about making sure that you are just completely fulfilled and your vibrations are high, and then you can go back and love on your clients, love on your family, love on your friends, and it really is just an annual reset. This was the last mastermind, so I'm a little sad about that, but I'm sure there'll be more things that I can fill that space with. The key with these, though, they're always so motivational, and what's very important, and the warning they give you is, don't sit here for 2 days and take all this in and learn and grow and then do nothing with it. So what are you going to do with it? And I will say, one of the things I'm doing with it is I'm recording this podcast and I'm sharing this with all of you, because do you know what? At the end of the day, if we're even able to affect one person, it's amazing. So what did we learn at this conference? So one of the biggest things, and this was a huge win. So we had some great speakers, and the speakers this time, usually there's 2 or 3, but we had 4. And we had Bert Jacobs, and Bert Jacobs is with Life is Good t-shirt company. Very cool. Check them out. Vanessa Van Edwards, who writes Cues and Captivate. Amazing. I'm actually currently listening to Captivate on Audible, and it's so good. Eric Weihenmayer, I'm probably saying that wrong. No Barriers. This man should be everyone's hero. He is blind, and he also climbed Mount Everest in record-breaking time, and is just a cowboy adventurer. And I have no words, but good for him is probably the only thing I can say, because it's absolutely mind-blowing what he's capable of. And then Damon West. Damon West talked about how to be a coffee bean. So really cool lesson where life is going to come at you. So his example was about prison, but it can be life. And if you basically look at life or prison as a pot of boiling water, you can be a carrot, which you put the carrot in, it's hard, it goes in the water, it gets soft. You can be an egg, where you have the egg, you put it in, and the inside gets hard, so your heart would harden. And neither of those are good. Or you could be the coffee bean, and you put it in and you change the water. So instead of letting the water change you, you can actually change the water. And it was really a cool lesson because we can all take a moment and step back and say, instead of letting the world affect us, how can we affect the world? How can we make a positive change? And how can we help our clients and our friends and our families? And it's a really cool way of thinking. So back to our conferences. So when we're connecting, it's very important at these conferences, and especially, so everyone's just playing, as my husband says, playing cards. So we're all trading cards, and isn't that great? What are you doing with that stuff later? So you have these great conversations. Hopefully you're spending time with not just people you know, but getting to know people that you don't know. And I will say it's really cool. I try to meet at least 2 or 3 new people a day. So if I'm here for 3 days, I'm trying to meet at least 9 people. We'll run into other people, but at least some good conversations and getting to know someone either for the first time or a little bit better than you knew them before. And so the connection is, you want to make sure so stay in touch. So you can do, I met a really great girl named Kelly from Texas, and she actually immediately sent me a text message and said, let's connect. And I love that. That's great, because in the hustle and bustle of a conference, sometimes you can have a great conversation and then you have to struggle to say, who was that with? And so that immediate connection is great. Putting them into your database. So what I do when I meet any conference people, they're mostly all realtors. So meaning they serve a city. So I will usually put their first name and then their last name - city. So if your name is Bob Smith and you work in Houston, Texas, I will say Bob, first name, last name Smith - Houston, Texas. And it makes it really easy later on if you're looking through your database, because someone says, hey, I would love a realtor in Houston. Do you know anyone? And you might remember today, but 6 years down the road, it's nice to just say, oh, you know what? I met a great guy named Bob. You should connect with him, and then you can refer, because referrals are gold. But those connections are a big deal. And what's nice in conferences like this is we're all sharing the same experience. So we're sitting there, we're excited, we're happy, and then we can talk about the shared experience. There's plenty of opportunities to have coffee, to have lunches, dinners, and it's beautiful. But make sure you take advantage of those connections, and bonus points if you send out cards to the people that you meet. Now, I'm going to go extra bonus points. Try to take something that you talked about and add it into the note, because a lot of the times we'll get these generic notes from people that we met at Mastermind or at a conference, and they will say something like, great to see you at Mastermind, looking forward to your referrals in the Enter City here area. And that's great, but that's basically like, hey, nice to meet you, send me something. And I think when I see those, because I get so many of them, they don't really stand out. But if someone says, hey, thanks for sharing about your guitar playing, great to sit next to you, or whatever, or thanks for giving me a sunflower sticker, or whatever it is, it's kind of like, hey, they actually remembered me and they cared, and they're most likely going to stay in my mind than the person that's just kind of asking for stuff. And that's just a personal preference, but I mean, you want that real estate in someone's mind. So anything you can do to keep in the mind is great. Then we go learning and growing. So conferences like this are fantastic. And this is Mastermind, but any conference you choose, make sure that you're really getting into it. And as we learned in this conference especially, just make sure, like Damon West, his example, what he said was, make sure you leave it all in the field. So make sure you're leaving everything, like give everything to this. So if you have a notebook, Buffini makes it really easy because you actually have fill in the blanks, which is fantastic because you can follow along. And I think they've done so much research and it really just sticks in your mind. But even if you have a notebook and you don't have something with fill in the blanks, make notes. There's going to be a lot of stuff that you hear, and usually we may not remember it, but you're more likely to learn and remember things when you hear them and write them down. So just write them down. It's also a really great idea to take photos of any slides that you think are good. But learning and growing is important. So try to listen with an open mind, and as you're listening, you can jot down things that you maybe want to look into. So I will say, so even though I have no desire to climb Mount Everest or to jump out of a plane, I'm fascinated that people have these things that they would die for. Like if you asked Eric, hey, like you could die doing this, and it's kind of like, yeah, but I still want to do it. Neil Armstrong was interviewed by Brian, and it was an amazing moment because they were talking in 2002. He was interviewed, and the question was like, when you were in Apollo 11 and you found out like there was all these problems, like what did you think your chances of making it through were? And they thought, like, he actually said, like, straight face, like, we had about a 1/3 chance of making it. And so the whole crew decided to record every single thing they were doing and try to make every last moment until they died count and be impactful for people in the future that would be able to take that data and learn from it for the space program. And imagine having that commitment where you just want to be part of something. You want to leave an impact, and you don't think about you think about the bigger picture. And I think that's absolutely beautiful. But when you're thinking about these things, what's nice is that you take it one level further, and what is it for you? What is the thing you're so passionate about that you would just give it all up? And if you don't know it, you are not alone. But that's kind of the joy. And I forget who said it. I want to say Zig Ziglar because he says so many great things, but who's to say? I'm not sure who said it, but there are two important moments, the day you're born and the day you discover why. And it is very exciting to be passionate. And I personally am all fired up from this conference, but just to rediscover that passion and really find out like what makes your heart sing, what sets your soul on fire. And that's what we should be doing. That's what we should be focusing on, because nobody on their deathbed is going to be sitting there saying, oh, I wish I had done more like monotonous work. You want something that really just does it. So the next thing we do is we reflect. So just like I'm saying right now, reflect. What does it mean to you? So you've sat there, you've learned, you've absorbed, and these are all stories that are curated to share a story, but also to share a lesson. And what does that mean for you? So I remember at one of the conferences at Peak Experience, Brian gave us a puzzle. So not a big puzzle, it was like, 100 pieces. And he said, don't go out tonight. When you go back to your room, do this puzzle and think about everything you learned. And it's because when you're doing something like a puzzle, you're doing something creative, so you're figuring it out, but your mind can't really think. You can't really go off and get distracted because you're doing something, but you're doing something that doesn't really take a lot of brain power, so you can also reflect and think. And it was a really cool experience. So whether it's a puzzle, whether it's walking, I get I'd say every good idea I've ever had has come either on the treadmill or walking. And Brian shared the same thing for him. He actually carries a little notebook around. I personally put my stuff either on pen and paper or my notebook app, because sometimes it's just easier to write it in. But definitely always have something there so that when the idea comes and when that moment strikes you, you have it. So reflect. And that might be journaling. It might be talking with someone. It might just be sitting and meditating. But taking that time to really just take it all in, because life will get really busy and you do not have to rush that, because you'll get right back on the roller coaster. And you really want to get back on as a changed or not even changed, but improved version of you. So Brian also talked about the rediscovery of us versus the reinvention. So the rediscovery is when, you go through something or you think about something and you just find the core of you. And Brian shared about Morgan Freeman. And Morgan Freeman, we know him as the great Morgan Freeman, but when we saw him in Shawshank Redemption, he was kind of 2 years into his success journey after 30 years of really just like hustling to try and make a name for himself. And what he's told, there's an interview, and he said when he finally was kind of discovered, he stopped trying to please everybody and he went back to who he was at his core. Who he was when he was 12 years old is what he said. And so at our core, who are we? And I would urge you to think about who have you been, or when have you been at your very best? And your very best for you. When did you feel the most free, the happiest, the most successful? And what were you doing that made you feel like that? Or what weren't you doing that made you feel like that? I find that for me, when I'm kind of living my highest and best purpose, and I feel like I'm really doing what God wants me to do, or I'm really doing what I'm meant to do, and that I'm free of fear and doubt, that's when I'm shining. And I'm really doing stuff. When I'm doing this, when I'm talking to you on podcasts, or I'm writing articles, like these are all things I truly do feel my servant leadership is a very strong core purpose for me. But what is yours? And that's the thing, like that's so exciting to discover it. But what is it that you were doing, and do you feel passionate now? And if you feel like 100% passionate, then you know what? Share this with someone that you know that's not passionate. But really rediscovering you. And also, like Brian mentioned in this conference, avoid the trap of reinventing yourself. You can't just keep changing who you are and becoming a new version of you every time. It's like getting into a new relationship every time, or like for the longest time with fitness challenges, it can be addictive. There's a $1 billion fitness and diet industry banking on the fact that you're going to keep trying to reinvent yourself, and you're going to start a new diet and new this and new that. But you're still you. You are still you. And so the rediscovery of that, and what does the best you look like? And can you embrace that? And I mean, it's taken me 4 decades to get here, and I'm not even really all the way there yet. But embracing who I am and being so happy with that is really my ultimate goal, and I hope it's yours too. So just to recap, so conferences, you want to connect, learn and grow, reflect, and then rediscover. And remember, to try to find out, when did you feel at your best and highest purpose? Like, when was that? Other conferences I've been to, also good. So Tony Robbins conferences are awesome. Richard Robbins has a really great conference as well. Kathleen Black has a great conference as well. The thing is, you can also get into kind of a conference addict zone. And I would urge you to not do that. Because the thing is, you need the time to reflect. You need the time to implement. You can't just keep collecting books and collecting knowledge without using it. Because honestly, knowledge is potential power. And that's a Tony Robbins quote. So knowledge isn't power. Knowledge is potential power, because you have to use it. You have to take these things and do them. And I actually would argue that the people that do them are really the successful ones. Lots of people can go, you can be fired up, drink the Kool-Aid. Vanessa Van Edwards had us singing Journey's Don't Stop Believing at the top of our lungs, and it was amazing. And you can feel so good, but then you go back to your regular life, and if you're not coming up with a plan to implement, or you're not doing your goals, or making your calls, writing your notes, checking in with clients, these are all things that you have to be doing. So the action is is the key. And taking steps, like everything can be set up for you, but you still have to take those steps. And so when we're looking at the implementation, you can go to every conference if you're going to implement it. And I will tell you, like, true confession, last year, in the last 2 years, I was simultaneously in 3 coaching programs, and I was going to all of these conferences and all of these. I don't know what I was chasing. I really don't. But I finally had to step back and say, what am I doing? And I had to choose what was best for me. And what was best for me was Buffini. Buffini and Company is an amazing coaching company out of Carlsbad, California. If you are not already in coaching with them or you haven't heard of them, please reach out. I will connect you because they're amazing. But you have to find out what works for you and how will it help you be a better person for your clients and your family and your friends. But is it making you a better version of you? Because that's really what we want. I mean, you can go to all these conferences all day long, but there's no quick fix. There's no magic, add water and stir. It's hard work. And are you going to do the work? So I believe you are. I think you're amazing. And just by the fact that you're listening to this, you are like on your journey of learning, and that's great. So I hope that you do go to a conference. I hope you're reading amazing books and you're surrounding yourself with great things. I'm so happy that you took the time to listen today. I am Krystal Lee Moore, also known as your Home Sweet Home 519 Realtor, Krystal Lee Moore. This is Realtor Life, and we'll see you next time.